Chapter 10. An Unplanned Visit. Rat power. In a bizarre way, it made sense. Like my mother was fond of saying, whatever works. The ramifications of this discovery made sense as well. If the world became dependent on L-Gen energy, the L-Gen would control the world. Man, all this thinking has made me hungry, Austin said. Where's the pizza? I was glad to see he had his appetite back. He looked at the clock on the wall. What's taking them so long? They're probably kissing, Wade said, still bitter about being left behind. Hey, wait a minute, Ian said. Both Hummers are in the driveway, but they're not in them. His expression fell. Oh no. Just then something crashed through the home's front window. Before we could see what it was, there were two loud explosions and the room was filled with an overpowering stench. My eyes watered and I covered my nose and mouth with my hands and yelled for everyone to run. Suddenly the door burst open and a man shouted, "Everyone on the ground, put your hands in front of you! Do it! Do it now!" He ran inside the front room, flanked by two other guards. Zeus was the first to react. He extended his hands and blasted the man standing in the doorway, knocking him back against the wall. But before Zeus could hit anyone else, two darts stuck him in the side. Zeus cried out and fell to the ground, screaming and writhing in pain. The darts were peculiar looking, fat like a cigar, tapered at one end and yellow with red stripes. L-Gen guards poured into the room through the front and back doors, shouting as they entered. They were wearing black rubberized jumpsuits with helmets, masks, and gloves, which made them look more like machines than humans. Each of them carried a chrome weapon I'd never seen before. It looked like a handgun, only broader and without the barrel. I pulsed while Taylor was trying to reboot the guards, but neither of us seemed to have any effect on them. Darts hit us almost simultaneously, one in her chest and one in her knee, and three on me, two hitting me in the side, the third just below my collarbone. We both collapsed as if our bones had suddenly turned to rubber. The experience was similar to what we felt when Nichelle, one of Hatch's electric kids, would use her powers to drain the electricity out of us. Except this new machine was even worse. I began to shake uncontrollably, and I wondered if I was having a heart attack. A moment later, a man wearing a purple uniform walked in through the front door. He was followed by a guard nearly 6 inches taller than him. The guard in purple held an electronic tablet, which he studied as he approached Zeus. "Frank," he said to Zeus. "I'm Zeus," Zeus said. "Yes," the man said. "Dr. Hatch said you suffered from delusions of grandeur. You know he's looking forward to your reunion. He has something very special in mind for you. He said a pool party was in order." Zeus turned pale. I looked over to see Austin on the ground with one of the guards standing above him. The guard's boot was on Austin's neck, pushing his face into the carpet. There were 4 darts in Austin's back. "Captain, the darts won't work on him," the guard shouted. "Idiot, he's not electric," the captain replied. "What do I do with them?" "Same as the ugly kid over there," he said, pointing at Wade. "Take him to the van." The captain walked over to Ian, who had 3 darts in him. He was on his knees and holding his side. "So you're Ian," the captain said. "How's the vision?" "Perfect," Ian said defiantly, turning toward the man's voice. "Really? Perfect?" "Yeah. I can't see your ugly face." He kicked Ian in the stomach. Ian fell to his side, gasping. "Too bad you didn't see that coming." He shouted to the guards. "Get them all into the van! Move it!" At least Jack and Abby got away, I thought. The captain looked over at Taylor and me, then walked up to Taylor, his stooge following closely behind him. "You must be Taylor," he said, looking her in the eyes. "The reason we wear these uncomfortable helmets. Let's remedy that." He turned to his guard. "Belt." "Here, sir," he said, handing the captain a long strap with blinking green LEDs. He cinched the belt over Taylor's head and chin. It looked like some kind of orthodontic headgear, except with a lot of wires and lights. Taylor gasped. "It hurts." "Does it?" he asked. He shouted to the guards who were still in the room. "You can take your helmets off now." Then he grabbed Taylor by the chin and forced her to look at him. Tara had a carbon copy. I'm nothing like her, Taylor said, wincing in pain. You're just as beautiful as she is. He ran his finger across her face. Don't touch her, you creep, I said. The man turned to me, his eyes narrowing with contempt. And you must be the famous Mr. Vey. Dr. Hatch was very specific about you. He touched something on the tablet he was carrying, and the pain in my body increased. I screamed out, gasping for air. If you have dental fillings and have chewed aluminum foil, you have an idea what it felt like, except spread throughout my whole body. Stop it, Taylor shouted. Please! I rolled over onto my back, struggling for breath. The pain continued to pulse through my body. A wild, agonizing throb followed by a sharp, crisp sting. Stop it! I shouted. I don't take orders from little boys. After another 30 seconds, Taylor screamed, Please, stop it! Please, you're killing him! I'll do whatever you want! Don't be dramatic, sweetie. I'm not killing him. I'm just making him wish he were dead. Dr. Hatch gave us instructions to bring him back alive, like an animal to be put in a zoo. And yes, Miss Ridley, you will do whatever I want. He pushed something on the tablet and the pain eased. There's an app for everything these days, isn't there? He looked at me. We underestimated you, Mr. Vey. But it won't happen again. Trust me. There are worse things in this world than Cell 25. Chapter 11. The Ride to the Airport. I was carried by a guard out to the backyard, where the guards had parked their truck. A large van emblazoned with the name of a moving company. The darts were still in me, and the guards had special hooks with which they secured them. I don't know what the darts were, but they seemed to suck the life out of me, twisting my thoughts with pain. Everything seemed to be happening around me in quick staccato flashes, like I was surfing TV channels with a remote. I saw Ian being dragged off by 3 men. McKenna was crying. Austin had a bloody nose and was calling a guard a dumb gorilla. 2 guards were standing near the garage taking pictures of the Hummers. I heard their conversations, or at least some of it. One guard was asking the other where we'd gotten the cars. My mind flashed, and I remembered that Ian had said both Hummers were in the garage. Where were Jack and Abigail? Then I noticed 3 pizza boxes on the ground. Connected to the back of the truck was a motorized platform that the guards used to lift us into the cargo bay. The inside of the truck looked like a laboratory and was filled with long rows of blinking diodes and pale green monitors. On one side of the truck were horizontal cots, stacked above one another like shelves. Zeus and Ian were already strapped down on the bottom 2 cots. On the opposite side of the truck was a white rubber-coated bench with rubber shackles every 3 or 4 feet. Jack and Abigail were both strapped to the bench, their arms fastened above their heads, with belts across their waists, thighs, and calves. Abigail was crying, and I could see that Jack was bleeding from his nose and forehead. He hadn't gone without a fight. On both sides, near the center of the truck, were narrow, locker-like cabinets. Behind those was a console with digital readouts and rows of switches and more flashing lights. A guard was seated at the console, watching as we were brought in, waiting for us. One of the guards pulled a cot out like a drawer, and I was laid on it, then strapped down at my ankles, waist, chest, and arms. Last, a wire was fastened around my neck, holding me fast and making it difficult to breathe. "C is connected," a guard shouted to the man near the console. Through my peripheral vision, I saw the man push a lever, and I immediately felt a tingling in my neck, followed by stinging pain throughout my body. I felt nauseous, as if I might throw up, but I fought the urge. "C is active," the man in back said. The guard pushed my cot toward the wall into its slot. The empty cot above me was only 6 inches from my nose. "What's this?" a guard said, holding up my cell phone. "I got it off him," the other said. "It's dead. Take it back to the lab." They stowed the phone in one of the cabinets. My mind was still racing, trying to figure everything out. Breathing was a challenge. Escape was impossible. Almost everything in the back of the truck was coated in plastic or rubber, which I figured was so we wouldn't short things out. Wade and Austin were secured next to Abigail and Jack on the long bench across from me, their hands strapped over their heads. Taylor was brought in next and bound to the cot above me. I could hear her crying as they tied her down. The sound of her in pain hurt as much as the machine I was connected to. "B is connected," the guard said. Taylor moaned. "B is active," the man in back said. "What about them?" one of the guards said, walking up with McKenna and Grace. "They're electric." "They're harmless," the voice said. "Put them on the bench." McKenna and Grace were strapped to the bench, their arms lifted above their heads like the others. When we were all secured, the overhead door was brought down, leaving the truck illuminated in an eerie greenish glow. 2 guards were still with us, one sitting on a short bench across from Austin, while the other walked to the front of the cargo hold and disappeared through a door to the cab. The engine started up, and the truck shook, then lurched forward, swinging everyone on the bench to one side. I felt drugged. It took effort to maintain consciousness. "Taylor," I groaned, the effort taking almost everything I had. "Shut up!" the guard shouted, which in my state seemed to echo a dozen times between my ears. Taylor never answered. I could hear Zeus breathing heavily below me. No one spoke. I felt like we were being driven to an execution, which was possible. After a few minutes of silence, the guard stood up from his bench and walked over to the cots, squatting down next to Zeus. "Hey, Stinky. Remember me? It's your buddy Wes. I used to be on the electric children detail. I bet you're glad to see me again." Zeus said nothing. "Well, I'm excited to see you. I've waited a long, long time for our reunion, to catch up on old times. Maybe you remember when you and Brian thought it would be really funny to shock me when I was in the shower." Zeus still didn't speak. "Yeah, I'm sure you remember. How could you forget something that hilarious? Unfortunately, I almost forgot about it because of the concussion I got from hitting my head on the tile. And then I got distracted by the surgery it took to fix the slipped disc in my back. Not that they really fixed it. I still have chronic back pain, but no big deal, right? Everyone had a good laugh." His voice dripped with venom. "I guess we just don't go well together, Stinky. That happens, you know. Some things don't go well together, like, say, oil and water. They just don't mix." He turned around to the cabinets and brought something out. Or should I say, Zeus and water. I caught a glimpse of what he'd taken from the cabinet. It was a child's plastic squirt gun. "I brought this especially for our time together. Our special reunion. Oh, look at you. You look scared. What are you, a baby? It's just a tiny little squirt gun. What harm could that do?" He pulled the trigger and a stream of water showered on Zeus. I heard the crisp sparking of electricity. "Ah!" Zeus groaned. "Oh, come on. It's just water, Stinky. It's about time you bathed. You smell like an outhouse." He sprayed again. There was a louder snap and Zeus cried out this time. He was panting heavily and moaning in pain. "Ah, the stench. How do you live with yourself? Or don't pigs smell themselves? Maybe you like your own stink." He sprayed again. Zeus sobbed. "Please, please. You want more? Hey, be cool," Ian said. "Shut your mouth, Mo boy, or I'll turn up your resat." He leaned in toward Zeus. "Do you remember what you said to me after I got out of the hospital? You said, 'Come on, Wes. Where's your sense of humor?'" He began pulling the trigger over and over. Zeus let out a blood-curdling scream. "Come on, Zeus. Where's your sense of humor?" Zeus's screams rose higher still. "Not so funny now, is it?" he shouted over Zeus's screams. "Stop it!" Abigail yelled. The man looked back at her. "Stay out of this, sweet cheeks." "Please," she said. "Please. I'll take away your pain." "What?" "I'll take away your pain if you leave him alone." Wes stared at her, wondering if she was telling him the truth. "If this is a joke..." "It's what she does," Austin said. "She stimulates nerve endings. She can take away pain." "I'll help you," she said. "Please stop hurting him." Wes turned back to Zeus, then spit on him, which also elicited a sizzling spark. Then he walked back to the bench where Abigail was sitting. "If this is a trick, I guarantee you'll wish you were never born." "I can't hurt you," Abigail said. "I wouldn't if I could." He studied her expression, then sat down next to her. "What do I do?" "I need to touch you. If you unlock my hands..." "That ain't gonna happen, babyface." "Then put where it hurts next to me. Anywhere." "Your knee?" She nodded. He crouched on the floor next to her, his back pressed up against her. After a moment, he sighed. "Oh, wow. I'm gonna have to talk with Hatch about keeping you around." Zeus was still whimpering below me, but Abigail had probably saved his life. The truck continued on, but with few stops, which made me believe we were on the freeway. I turned my head as far as I could to look at the others. McKenna and Jack were shackled directly across from me. What was the thing I'd been hooked to? My body and my mind ached. My heart ached too, but that was my own doing. What did I get my friends into? How could I have been so stupid to believe some stranger on a cell phone? Suddenly, McKenna seemed to blur. There may have been sweat running down my forehead into my eyes, but something about her was different. Her skin color was changing. Was I hallucinating? Austin looked at me, then he glanced over at McKenna. He got a strange expression on his face, and I wondered if he saw it too. Austin looked over at the guard, then suddenly began singing. 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around, 98. Shut up, the guard said. Austin swallowed. Just thought shut up. Austin clenched his jaw. He looked down for a moment as if thinking. Then he said to the guard, "Those new gizmos you have rock. What do you call them?" The guard didn't answer, but he didn't tell him to shut up either. "Sorry, I didn't realize they don't tell you these things. Probably top secret. For the important guys." "It's a resat," the guard said. Austin nodded. "Resat? Cool." I looked back over at McKenna. I wasn't seeing things. Her skin color really was changing. She was now almost glowing red. Austin must have seen what she was doing and was trying to keep the guard distracted. I looked back at Austin, who was nodding, carefully manipulating the guard. Clever. Clever indeed. Resat is taser spelled backward. The man suddenly scratched his chin. "I never thought of that." "I'm sure you would have," Austin said. "They didn't work you so hard. I bet they work you like a rented mule." "You got that right, cheeseball." At that moment, McKenna's arms melted through the bands. She was free. "But I bet you get great health benefits with all those Elgin doctors around." "You kidding me?" the guard said. "The dental plan is a $500 deductible." "You're pulling my leg," Austin said loudly. "Why even have it? That's a whole head of cavities." "It's a joke," the man said. McKenna slowly reached over and grabbed Jack's bands, immediately melting through them. Jack slowly lowered his arms, rubbing his wrists. Suddenly, the guard started to look back. Jack put his hands up again. "Hey!" Austin shouted. The guard stopped. "Do you have any kids?" "What?" "Kids. Rugrats. Spawn. You got them?" "No." "Sorry, of course not. I'm sure you're married to your job. If you had kids, the dental thing might still be worth it." "Family isn't allowed," the guard said. "It's a regulation." "They regulate that, huh?" Austin said. "You know, there's something I can't figure out." Jack reached down and unclasped his legs, then slowly inched down the bench toward the weapons cabinet. "What?" the man asked. I can't figure out how you'd go about getting hired for a job like yours. It's not like you could post it on the Help Wanted section. I can't talk about that, he said. I mean, what kind of ad would that be? Wanted. Ugly, mean, smelly dudes with below-average IQs to kidnap and abuse teenagers. The guy's mouth fell. What section would that be under anyway? Creepy dudes? The man scowled. You watch it. You smart-mouthed little... Actually, Austin said, you should watch it. What the... Jack cracked the guard over the head with a truncheon, knocking him out with one blow. The guard slumped to the van's floor. Man, that felt good, Jack said, stretching out his arms like a baseball player at bat. Not to him, Austin said. McKenna walked over to Austin, who looked at her with admiration. That was cool, he said. Careful, don't touch me, she said, kneeling on the bench next to him. I'm still pretty hot. Yeah, you are hot, Austin said, sounding smitten. McKenna grinned a little as she grabbed Austin's armbands and melted through them. There you go. Like butter, Austin said, stretching his arm. He bent over and unclasped his stomach and leg belts. Let's free Michael. We've got to take care of this guy, Jack said, standing above the guard with the club. Let me loose, Wade said. I'll help you. Jack unloosed his bands, and they lifted the guard up and strapped him to the wall, while McKenna and Austin unfastened my collar. The intense pain immediately stopped, and I groaned with relief, though I still felt as dizzy if I'd just ridden the teacups ride at Disneyland for an hour. Well done, McKenna, I said. Thanks. As I climbed out of the cot, Austin and McKenna unstrapped Taylor, then Ian and Zeus. I helped Taylor climb out, then Ian. Zeus hadn't moved. He was still in a lot of pain from the guard's torture. Can I help you? I asked. Just give me a minute, he said, rolling over in his cot. You okay, buddy? I asked. Been better, he said. His skin was blistered where the guard had sprayed water on him. I don't know what that new dart thing is, he said. But it's like a shell in a can. That's exactly what it is, Austin said. The Elgin must have found a way to replicate her powers without her weakness. How's your vision? I asked Ian. It's back, he said. Across the aisle, Jack unloosed Abigail. Thank you, she said softly. You're gonna be okay, he said. I'll get you out of here, I promise. As Jack freed Grace, Abigail knelt at Zeus's side. She put her hand on him and closed her eyes. After a moment, he relaxed and stilled. Thank you for stopping him, he said. You're welcome, she said. I was leaning against the opposite wall, holding my head and trying not to throw up. Taylor laid her hand on my back. You okay? Alive. How about you? Me too, she said hoarsely. I wonder where they're taking us. We just passed a sign for the airport, Ian said. What's our situation with guards? I asked. There are 2 guards driving this truck, 1 Escalade in front, 2 behind us. How many guards in the Escalades? 4 in front, 5 and 4 in back. We need to take charge of the van, I said. Then what? Ian said. We can't outrun the Escalades, not in this whale. We don't need to, Jack said. We'll crush them. I saw this in a movie once, but first, we need to commandeer this bad boy. That's a good word, Austin said. Commandeer. Jack looked at him. What? You don't think I know any big words? Austin withered. Sorry. Anyone got a plan? I asked. I say we just storm the cab, Jack said. Commando style. Too risky, I said. They'll crash. Austin's face lit up. I have an idea, he said. A good one, with 3 parts. 3 parts? I said. That was fast. Yes. This is going to be epic, he said. Chapter 12. Riding the Whale. A couple of minutes later.